So there are a lot of people who talk about digital transformation. And then there's Walker Reynolds, someone who has made it his mission to challenge how the industry thinks about it. In fact, he probably made most people rethink their entire digital strategy more than most companies with a dozen consultants and a 7-figure budget. And he does it with just a whiteboard, a Sharpie, and a dose of brutally honest insights that sometimes make us uncomfortable, but oftentimes need to be heard. Walker is widely considered the top global thought leader in industrial data architecture and often referred to as the father of the industrial unified namespace. He's a seasoned data architect who spent decades in the trenches in mining, steel, automotive, and systems integration. All that before becoming an educator, a consultant, and a straight shooter that many of us rely on today. Today, he's going to walk us through why MES is the starting point and how a unified namespace connects it all the way up to something intelligent, scalable, and shockingly simple. And so you know, I am running an over-under betting pool on his presentation time, and I've got the over at 7 minutes, and if there's any takers on that, just message me. And with that, please welcome me in joining Walker Reynolds up on stage. Go get him.
Are we good? All right, so because we are gonna go long, so let's start by having everybody who's sitting down stand up for 3 seconds and then sit back down. Everybody's got to stand up, okay? Stretch your legs, because I am gonna go over, because I do want to answer questions. 4, 5, now you can sit back down. Well done. All right, so I want to follow up on a couple of things. So I want to talk, it was the mayor of Porto who spoke, and then Francisco. All right, so the most important thing that the mayor said is that the European Union is behind in digital transformation. That is very true. Unfortunately, of all the regions in the world, the European Union is dead last. Antarctica is ahead of the European Union in digital transformation. That's the truth. That's actually not hyperbole, unfortunately. And it's terrifying because some of the best engineers in the world are in the European Union. Unfortunately, the most arrogant engineers in the world are in the European Union. And so the hubris is the reason the European Union is dead last. This is not an opinion. We can measure it mathematically. We have a data set of about 2,000 companies that we have measured across 10 Industry 4 pillars to measure digital maturity. If we look at the 1S, 2S, 3S breakdown, the European Union is disproportionately represented in the minus 2S category of digital maturity. So you should all be fucking terrified if you're from the European Union. You should be terrified, literally terrified. You should leave here and think that industry is on the precipice of economic collapse in the European Union. That's what your mindset should be. I just can't stress it enough. I don't want to come here. I don't want to be jet lagged. I spoke in Prague a couple of weeks ago. I flew here to speak here. Generally, I do these remotely. I am only here to beg you to take digital transformation seriously and to see the forest through the trees. You are dead last. You should be terrified. It is scary to me. It is really scary to me. Okay? Does anybody disagree with what I just said? Raise your hand. If you don't believe the European Union is dead last in the globe, we have one hand. I'm going to illustrate something for you. Okay? Prior to Francisco mentioning Model Context Protocol here 10 minutes ago, how many of you here could articulate what MCP is? 12, 13 hands. I could ask the exact same question in the United States, and 80% of the room is going to raise their hand. And the reason I know is because I do ask the exact same question in the United States. Okay? So the mayor was right. Okay? European Union's struggling. Really, really struggling. And I am here to help. Okay? Number two, most important thing that Francisco said in his speech was the Holy Trinity. Okay? The good news is, while AI agents are incredibly valuable, I'm going to show you in my presentation, we're not even remotely close. Okay? There's only a handful of companies who are ready to deploy agents. That's the good news. Okay? And here's how I can prove that. How many people here know what MQTT is? Okay, it's basically the entire room. If I asked the exact same question 5 years ago, it would have been 10% of the room. If I asked the exact same question 10 years ago, it would have been 1% of the room. When was MQTT invented? (1998). Phillips 66, 1998. When was MQTT introduced to the world en masse for industry? 2015, when Arlen Nipper gave a famous speech showing connecting 500 devices in 10 seconds or less at a conference in Folsom, California in 2015. Okay, that was 17 years after the invention. I'm going to show you something on a little chart I have here, and then we're going to talk about the importance of MES. But I'm going to show you something a little bit about Moore's Law, how Moore's Law applies to social constructs, okay, and social institutions, specifically digital transformation, okay, and the industrial revolutions. From Industry 1 to Industry 2, how many years passed between the invention of the steam engine and then the beginning of Industry 2, which was the assembly line? Longer. It was greater than 200 years between the invention of the steam engine and the assembly line, which steam engine conversion of mechanical energy into mass work. Assembly line was the mass production of goods. Between Industry 2 and Industry 3, when the PLC was invented, how many years passed? 50-something years. 50-something years. 1969, the PLC came out. Okay, so we went from 200 years to 50-something years. Between 1969 and the fourth industrial revolution, which started when TCP/IP won the protocol wars in 1998, how many years passed? Right? It continued to have until the fifth industrial revolution, which has already started. It started in November of 2022. Nobody knows it. I mean, many people would debate. I'm right. It absolutely has started. Okay? The technological breakthrough that started Industry 5 was ChatGPT in November of 2022. The convergence of human and artificial intelligence. Industry 1, steam engine. Industry 2, the assembly line. Industry 3, the PLC. Industry 4, TCP/IP. Industry 5, ChatGPT. Industry 4 was about automating business decisions. Industry 5 is about the convergence of human and artificial intelligence. One of my favorite slides that you put up there was the human approval, the relationship between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. All right, that's how we got to where we are. None of that was in my presentation, by the way, other than a funny chart I have going on here. The reason I bring it up is I didn't know what the presentation would be. And so what I want to do is, there's a crisis that we have in industry right now. And that crisis is agents are very powerful. They're incredibly powerful. I'm going to show you a simple example of a precursor to an agent in my demo, okay? But if you want to learn more about Model Context Protocol and kind of what the role of MCP is with AI agents, Aaron Semley, who's the CTO at HighByte, which is a data ops platform, but he has been shooting some YouTube videos showing how I use a chatbot to make decisions one at a time as a human being interacting. And then a couple months later, he used Model Context Protocol to take the exact same use case and give the agent a goal and have the agent use Model Context Protocol to go through all the steps itself. Okay? If you want to learn more about, like in application, Aaron Semley's got a great video. No question AI agents are going to transform our industry. But here's the groundbreaking statement I'm going to make about industry specifically. We're 5 to 8 years away. 5 to 8 years away. The technology is way ahead of all of you. Way ahead of all of you. Okay? Because I can ask a simple question, what is digital transformation? And no one's going to give me the answer unless they've learned it from a class we've taught previously. So does anybody who doesn't watch our videos and hasn't taken Mastermind, can they tell me what digital transformation is? If you don't know what digital transformation is, there is no way you can unlock the potential of an AI agent. Absolutely not, under no circumstances, full stop. The simple reality is that we're slowing down our progress. It's not getting faster. He's absolutely right. Most of us jumped on ChatGPT in November of 2022, and it was good because that helped us become fluent with what large language models and large reasoning models, what their potential was. But that was us just playing with Play-Doh. That was us playing with the tool and working on our dexterity. But very few of us created real value from large language models. In fact, there's a common question all of us asked ourselves with LLMs. What the fuck do I do with this? Like, really, I see the potential, but what do I do with it? Especially in manufacturing and industry, right? What is the most important thing in manufacturing? In fact, it's the only thing. Anybody? What is it? Yeah, production. Everything else is noise. Safety is not important. Quality is not important. They are not important. Production is the only thing that matters. The conversion of raw materials and subassemblies into finished goods and putting them in customers' hands and getting paid for it. That's what manufacturing is. Everything else is noise. Quality is only important if it improves production. Safety is only important if it improves production. Artificial intelligence is only important if it improves production. And now when I'll get into my MES component here, digital transformation is only important if it improves production. And how do you improve production? On anybody who works in a plant. First, let's do this. How many of you work in manufacturing? Raise your hand. Like actually in a plant. Okay, so that's going to be maybe 30%. How many of you are engineers who don't work in manufacturing? Like a systems integrator, software developer, okay. Sales and business development and executives. Then what would the other role be? I'm missing a role. Yell it out if you're not in one of those job functions. Yell it out. Marketing. Say it again. Technical writing, marketing. Raise your hand. All right, so that basically gives us everybody. Okay? Anybody who works in manufacturing, there's not a single person who raised their hand and said, I work in manufacturing, who is going to make a real argument that production is not king. They're also going to agree with this statement. If you ever make the operator's job harder, you failed. You flat out failed. And the number one mistake in digital transformation after not having a digital strategy is you failed because you made the operator's job harder. Because if the operator doesn't adopt it, if the electrician doesn't adopt it, if the mechanic doesn't adopt it, they will use that thing that makes their job harder as the reason why it is they didn't produce. And as that moves up the chain, the tool you created becomes the problem, not the solution. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today, 33 minutes, I'm going to try to be done in 28 minutes, okay? That way I can answer questions. What I'm going to talk about today is 99% of digital transformation initiatives start in the MES layer. When someone comes to us and we evaluate an organization and we do a digital transformation maturity assessment, we measure their digital maturity, and then we write a digital strategy statement, which is a 3-sentence statement on why we want to make data the primary commodity in our business. And then we design an architecture, we write minimum technical requirements that we're going to give to all the vendors and all the engineers. The proof of concept, 99.9999999% of the time starts in which layer? The MES layer. Why? Does anybody disagree with that? How many of you are involved in digital transformation right now? Raise your hand. Look at that. What's even crazier? Holy fuck. That's only 50% of the room. Sorry, I grew up in upstate New York, and I'm an American. I don't think about the language. 50% of the room is involved in digital transformation. It should be 100. It should be 100. That's crazy. That's crazy. If I were in the United States right now, if I were in India right now, if I were in China right now, and I asked that same question, 100% of the room would raise their hand, and they would have shot their hand to the ceiling. 50% of you raised your hand. If that is not evidence that the European Union is dead last in digital, I don't know what is. Please, please believe me. Please believe me. Okay? Don't allow my personality to turn you off. Hear that message, please. Okay? Why does digital transformation start in the MES layer? 99.99999. How many layers are there? We have PLC, HMI on the edge. I'll show this in a second. We got supervisory control and data acquisition. We got manufacturing execution. We have ERP. We have cloud. Those are the layers of a business. And I'll show why that in a second. But why does it start in MES? Say it again? Yeah. MES is where the business takes place. What percentage of manufacturers globally have a digital MES system? Francisco should know this number, but it is a microscopic number. What is the number one MES system on the planet? Open your mind here, folks. What is it? Microsoft Excel. Excel is the number one manufacturing execution system on the planet. Number one. That's not a digital manufacturing execution system. Okay? So you have to ask yourself, if digital transformation starts in the MES layer, nearly always, and only about 10% of all manufacturers have a digital MES, 10%, talk about a huge growth opportunity in the market, why is it only 10%? Manufacturing
is hard.
Yes. Executing manufacturing is really, really, really hard. That layer is the hardest layer to get right. ERP is easy. It's simple. Actually, SCADA is the easiest layer. Automation is harder than SCADA. A monkey could write a SCADA program. It's always the same. Supervisory control and data acquisition, 100% of the time is the same. If you're a SCADA engineer, you shouldn't be bragging about it. Automation is harder. Now, if you're an MES engineer, you should brag. You should really brag, because it is really hard. It is very easy to get wrong. It is incredibly hard to get right. And that's the reason we always start in the MES layer. It's where the business takes place. It's the hardest place to get right. And it's the place where no one's got digital. And if I'm going to be digitally transforming, I got to start in the most important place where we don't have digital, okay? And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about digital transformation using Unified Namespace. Unified Namespace is an architecture. You guys, if you want to find us, you can look on YouTube and LinkedIn and all the things. My team always wants me to make sure I do those promotional things there. My background, just real quick, this is kind of important. I spent the first 12 years of my career in manufacturing. So I was in mining for 5 years, and then I went to the printing industry for 2 years, and then I went to steel for 3 years, and then I went to Tier 1 automotive for 3 years. Then I became a consultant, and I worked for systems integrators for 3 years, I think. I worked for, and then I started my first firm. and then we've been educating since 2020. Why do you educate? Walker, you say you don't like being on stage. I don't like being on stage. I'm actually an introvert. You guys will notice when you come talk to me, it's very awkward for me, okay? I'll do it, and I love to talk to everybody, but I don't go, Tomasz will tell you, I don't go out to the bar when we visit in Slovenia and hang out. My team would go there. I don't go to the bar. I don't go to dinner. I don't do those things. I'm introverted. So why do I get on stage? Well, in 2018, my company had become known for being able to solve digital transformation initiatives that had failed. And my engineers were really tired of doing the same project over and over again. And I was worried about high turnover. So we got on YouTube to just say, hey, you guys are all making the same mistakes. Stop making them. Like, stop thinking that you can buy an ERP system and that's digital transformation. Okay, what's the number one ERP system in the world? SAP, right? Who's the number one digitally advanced company in the world? Tesla. It's not even close, by the way. They're 7 points above number 2, okay, which is Amazon. Which ERP does Tesla use? The only thing you need to know, it's not SAP. It's not. In fact, they don't use any ERP. They built their own. It's called Tesla Warp, and it's the ecosystem upon which all the smart things in the Tesla world interoperate with one another. That's what digital transformation is, okay? All right, with that, I just want to ask this question real quick. I ask it all the time. I'm not going to get into a debate about whether Elon is awesome or not, but normally the way this goes is, who here thinks Tesla's awesome? Basically, everybody in the room raises their hand, and then I go, does anyone think Tesla's not awesome? And somebody raises their hand, and then I ask them why, and they say, I don't really like Elon, and then I say, who told you that your opinion matters about Elon? I didn't ask you whether you liked Elon, I asked you whether Tesla's awesome. Okay? Is Amazon awesome? Everybody agrees Amazon's awesome, right? Okay, what business is Tesla in? Huh? They're in the data business. But here's what his real gift is. His gift, because he's a genius, they say genius identifies genius. This is, by the way, if you really want to know how it is the rich get richer and the wealthier get wealthier, it's because unless you inherited the money, you got to be a genius to get there. And genius identifies genius. My real gift is not in being able to come up here and talk or architect. It's being able to build teams. Teams are how you scale, being able to not strike out on picking a person. Elon does not strike out picking people. That's why Tesla scales. But Tesla is a data company. They are not a car company. That's the joke. The car is just a sensor. It's just a sensor. What is the most profitable business at Tesla? No. It's insurance. It's insurance. The widest margin is Tesla Insurance. How does Tesla do that? Why do they beat Allstate and State Farm and all of these huge legacy companies? Why is it Tesla has the highest margins on car insurance? Yeah, they move the premiums, they use the sensor to measure how safe you are, and they use the sensor to measure how safe the neighborhood is you drive in. Do the people in your neighborhood drive like morons and increase the likelihood that we're going to have to pay out? And then they adjust the premiums accordingly. They're a data company. Tesla collects traffic data off the road. I have a Ford and I have a Tesla. I have a bunch of cars, but I have two that they say they're digitally advanced. I have a Ford pickup truck, a 2025 F-250. I got the Ford app. It's a joke with a really bad punchline. And then Tesla's digital ecosystem is just otherworldly because they're a data company. What business is Amazon in? What's that? No, they're a data company. They're a data company. Jeff Bezos, does anybody think that Bezos is just like a talking head and he's not a genius and he just got lucky at Amazon and he's getting suckered by Lauren Sanchez and the guy just doesn't know? I assure you, Bezos is an absolute genius. Next level. Next level. In 2002, Jeff Bezos sent a famous email to every Amazon employee. Has anybody read this email? Anybody who's not a student of mine, have they read this email? Okay. In 2002, Jeff Bezos sent an email at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, all employees email. He said, we share entirely too much data in this company manually, through Excel spreadsheets, through email, walking from one office to the next. Effective tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., you will not do that anymore. It'll be a zero-tolerance policy. You will build services. Every data point will be served to its consumer. 2002. And that became Amazon Web Services, upon which all of Amazon's ecosystem is built. Amazon is a great e-commerce company because they predict what you're going to buy 6 weeks before you buy it. That's literally how they do it. Is that news to anybody? Did you know that they were predicting what you buy? Yeah, that's how they deliver to you in 48 hours or less. Check it. I mean, look it up. This is normally the point where people start, ChatGPT and Googling my numbers to make sure I'm telling the truth. Yeah, they predict what you're going to buy 6 weeks before you buy it. You don't know what you're going to buy 6 weeks from now. How does Amazon know? That's the power of data. You want to know the real power of machine learning? It's using computers to find patterns in data we can't see with the naked eye. That's all it is. It's that simple. And artificial intelligence is about having computers mimic human intelligence. That's why artificial intelligence and human intelligence have to work hand in hand together. Is anybody here that worried that AI is going to take over the world? I've had this debate with Jan LeCun multiple times now. He and I are good buddies by this point. Does anyone here think AI can take over the world? I do not. At all. At all. Not even remotely worried. Why? No, the reason why is because artificial intelligence that will program itself and get smarter. But what's the one thing artificial intelligence will never be? Human. What uniquely makes us human? It's two things that separates us from the rest of the world, or the rest of the wild kingdom. Emotions, that's the most important one. The ability to reason coupled with our emotions. We are neither a logical being nor an emotional being. We're both. And we can't predict our own actions. I mean, we just have a small sample set here, 600 people probably, right? And we could not, within 70% reliability, predict the actions of this entire room. Why? Because here's the problem with artificial intelligence. Large language models, large reasoning models are being trained on the collective experience of this entire room. But you don't all act collectively. If I put 4 of you together, the action you would take if it's one person among 600 could change if it's one person among 4. Why? Because of emotion. I'm a sociologist, and what we know is that groups of people behave differently based on the size of the group. So no, artificial intelligence will not take over the world. It will be limited by the capabilities of humanity, and humanity will always have a distinct advantage over artificial intelligence. And that distinct advantage is we have emotions and we're able to reason. And all of us have unique experiences. Okay? This is why communism doesn't work, by the way. The reason communism fails is because what we try to do is make decisions at a macro level only. And we don't give individuals the ability to do that which human beings do great, which is innovate. That's the only reason communism fails, by the way. It is anti-human. It's not a system not built upon human motivation. All right, this is an important chart. If you're going to take a photo of anything, it's really that one, because you want to see the differences, 201 to 56 to 29 to 24. Everything slowed down in the fourth industrial revolution. Everything. The technology you needed was invented in 1998, and you didn't even know about it until 2015, and most of you didn't start using it until 2020. The reason most of you are completely in the dark when it comes to artificial intelligence is because you're not digitally fluent enough to use it. Okay? All right, so let's get into what is digital transformation. Digital transformation happens in 2 steps. If any of you have done these 2 big steps, I would love to see a hand get raised. Step number 1, you become a smart company. That's, I write a digital strategy. This is why I want data to become our primary commodity. This is how our company is going to become like Tesla, a data company, where the thing that we manufacture supports the acquisition of data that we convert into value rather than the thing that we primarily sell. Okay? Number 1 is that smart business. Connect, collect, store, analyze, that's data operations, visualize, look at dashboards, make decisions, human beings, find patterns in that data, report bad outcomes, solve the likely predicted bad outcome. You do that iteratively on a common infrastructure. It starts out really small. I'm going to show you what it looks like. One thing that Francisco didn't mention, but he was talking about the beauty of MES. The beauty of MES is that most MES systems are built using the ISA 95 Part 2 information model. Enterprise, site, area, line, cell. ERP systems use that exact same model. Most unified namespaces, the architecture we use to build out a digital infrastructure, a single source of truth, something I can navigate and look at every data point I care about and the current value at this exact moment, we use ISA 95 Part 2 to structure it, almost always. The reason MES is a really powerful ingestion point for artificial intelligence is because the master data model of MES is structured like the business, because it's where the business happens. The second part of digital transformation is plugging into a digital supply chain. You have to do the connect, collect, store, analyze, data operations part and have an infrastructure so that you can do the second part, visualize, find patterns, report, and solve, that make our business smarter and smarter and smarter. You have to do that first, and then you take that digital infrastructure, this structure of the business, and we bolt it into a digital supply chain. What is the digital supply chain? Right now, most of you only talk to the links upstream and downstream from you. And you do that over the phone or through email or through some web portal. Tesla doesn't do that. Tesla built Giga Shanghai from breaking ground to breaking ground to the first car coming off of Giga Shanghai was how long? 9 months. Tesla's cycle time is what? Just, you got to be remotely close. Anybody know? 33 seconds. BMW's cycle time is 1 minute 8. Toyota's cycle time is 56. They're the only legacy manufacturer under 1 minute. So Tesla builds a plant in 9 months. They have a cycle time of 33 seconds. When everyone asks me who's going to win, they focus on Tesla's or Elon's a jerk. I focus on a 33-second cycle time and the fact that they can capitalize Gigafactory in 9 months. And they don't do that because they're slave drivers. They do that because they're a data company. They're able to do it because they're a data company. Digital supply chain is about taking a company and plugging it into an ecosystem and being connected to all possible upstream links and all possible customers, whether you're working with them or not. That's digital supply chain. Okay? This is how digital transformation takes place. Where does it start? It starts in this MES layer right here. Why does it start here? We've already established that. But this is every single manufacturer on the planet. Every single one. They sell stuff, they plan to manufacture, they execute the manufacturing, they monitor and control their plants, they monitor and control their assets. They manage their inventory, they ship things, and they get paid for stuff. And they do it all over again in a continuous loop. Okay? So when you're digitally transforming and you're like, where do I start? You want to know where you start? By answering 3 questions. As an organization, I'll talk to 5 groups: executive leadership, operations, maintenance and engineering, quality, and IT. We'll ask them a whole series of questions, but we'll hide these 3 in the series of questions. These are the only 3 questions that matter. Everything else is noise. What are you good at as an organization? What are you bad at? What's missing? That's why they're highlighted in red. You want to know what you're bad at and what's missing is? It's all the problems that need to be solved. And the first place you start with digital transformation is solving a problem you're aware of. And guess what that problem almost always is? Insight into current state. In real time. I am blind. I don't know where we are relative to plan. I don't know which assets are running. I don't know which assets are not running. I don't know which work order they're running on which machine. I don't know what the current state is of the raw material or the lot numbers that are supposed to be delivered to this asset and when. That is the reason digital transformation starts in the MES layer. And Excel has been the #1 MES system since the mid-90s, and Excel hasn't solved that problem yet. Interesting fact, Unified Namespace, which I'm here to talk about, was first built in Excel using Dynamic Data Exchange and Data Highway Plus and RS links to talk to the devices on the plant floor. But I did the semantic hierarchy, and I did the mapping to the topics and created the UNS using Dynamic Data Exchange in Excel. So, just a little history lesson. All right, another important part about digital transformation, we talk about OT-IT convergence, and everybody's like, what the hell? Yeah, that's a buzzword. No, it's not really. Cloud, ERP, MES, SCADA, HMI, and PLC Edge, that's every business. There's no other layer, okay? You'll notice with the Purdue security model, they'll put a DMZ like halfway through the MES layer, okay? OT-IT convergence is converging together using information technology. The stuff that the OT group owns, which is all the stuff on the edge plus half of MES, with all the stuff that IT owns, which is the cloud, the ERP infrastructure, and half of MES. OT-IT convergence is connecting that together, okay? In most organizations, there's an air gap between that IT group and the OT group. Why does that exist? Because production's king. That's the only reason it exists. You want to know why you have an OT group and an IT group? Because the rules that IT operate by inhibit production. So what do? They create an air gap, and they say, OT owns that. Why? Because production's king. They don't say production's king, but it's what they mean. The IT-OT divergence exists because production's king. Okay? Just in case anyone didn't agree that production's king. Okay. All right, so what is a unified namespace? All right? Very simple. Unified namespace is an architecture. The best way to describe it is, and you can go to virtualfactory.online, so virtualfactory.online. You could go there on your phone right now, and you can read what a unified namespace is, all the definitions, examples of types of namespaces, they're all found there. Plus there's a sample UNS. You can actually navigate through a unified namespace on the website right now if you want to. Unified namespace is the single source of truth for data and information in a business. Its current state, semantically organized, enterprise site area line cell, and then functions, descriptions, and information models are sprinkled all throughout. I'm going to show you an example here in a second. Okay? Why is UNS so popular? The answer is because human beings understand it. Who here can explain to me object orientation and digital thread? Okay, go ahead.
Object orientation is that you can actually make a relation to a given object and inherit its properties and attributes to grab some value.
Right, one of the reasons that I'm here is because I had an opportunity to do a deep dive with Critical Manufacturing's platform maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And part of the reason that I agreed to do this speaking engagement was because Critical Manufacturing is the first, I don't want to call it monolithic, but what we'll call it as is a solution-centric modular MES platform, that's what it is, that is built on an expandable infrastructure. There is a unified namespace on the inside of Critical Manufacturing's platform. And as you use modules, as you create functions and generate tags, that infrastructure expands internally, okay? Litmus Automation, who they do connectivity, they do the exact same thing. That's why Litmus is so powerful. That's why Google uses it in their manufacturing data engine. Critical Manufacturing uses a very similar architecture to Litmus. I don't expect everyone in here to understand architecture of software. But if you want to know why it is some software is good and some software is bad, it's not function, it's architecture. Okay? Software is very simple. Back end, we create models and we store data. API, application programming interface, and UI layer. Every software has all three of those components. But what we do with the API and what we do with the back end is important. What we've done and what we recommend that software companies do is they replace API and back end with Unified Namespace, which is an architecture. Okay? We also encourage manufacturers to do the exact same thing with their digital infrastructure. Okay? So what we do, Unified Namespace grows. It's living and it's breathing, and it sits in the middle of the business. So CRM and ERP and MES and SCADA and PLC HMI and the warehouse management software, they all produce and consume into the same digital infrastructure. That's what Unified Namespace is. And so I have an example on how to design one, but I want to answer questions, so I'm going to jump. This is an example of a Unified Namespace on the left-hand side here. So enterprise site area, and then I have a production line, and then I have an information namespace called line overview dashboard. And then I'm showing how the topics inside that information model are mapped to visualizations that an operator sees on the screen. And then I'm going to show you how just doing this yields value. I'm going to show you a case study here in a second. But this is Unified Namespace here on the left-hand side. But if you look at Press 103 here, we have an information dashboard. So if you look at the visualization I showed you earlier, what you see on the screen is contained in the informative namespace called dashboard. Okay? We have a MQTT or edge namespace. This is all coming from the PLC. So actual machine counter length is literally coming from a DH445 motion controller by Siemens over XMLDA, but it's being mapped into this UNS. You have role information that's coming from the ERP system. The specifications is coming from the quality system. So that specification right there is literally the master item number, the number of colors that need to be printed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all in one place. People ask me all the time in my career, how did I do what I did? Like, I've won 2 Firebrand Awards as an engineer in my career. I'm the only person to win 2. And I won them in back-to-back years. Here's a quick example of how UNS is used to digitally transform. This is a job jacket, 92322, that was printed on paper for a manufacturer in 2017. This came from Excel. Okay? That's all the data on the right-hand side inside of databases and stuff that populated that. And what we did was we built a very simple functional namespace called specifications, where we went and retrieved all that data and organized it semantically and put it in a place where anyone could access it. And then we built a visualization that consumed that information as a schedule. Now, you can do this lots of different ways. You can build it in, you could use RS View, you could use FactoryTalk View, you could use lots of things to do this. One could be object-oriented digital thread, where I create an object predefined, I create an API call predefined, I create a template predefined, and if I make a change to any of the 3, it breaks. Okay? Or I can use an expandable architecture like Unified Namespace that's designed this way that gives me the freedom to add whatever I want to this specification, take away whatever I want from this specification, and the UI will update automatically. That's called self-aware. Okay? One last thing I want to do, and then I'll answer questions. I'll answer 3 maybe. I'm going to go ahead and run a demo here. I'm going to run it quickly. Yes. All right. I'm going to run some simulators. And I'm going to show you how it is most of you are going to use AI. This is a Claude interface. So this is a simple Python-based Claude interface. And I have a unified namespace running that this agent connects to. And I'm going to say, I'm a brand new employee. Tell me about our plant. And a large language model is able to, because the UNS is semantically organized in a way a human can read it, the large language model can process it exactly the same way. And so what it does is it says, it literally looks at our unified namespace and says, your facility site 1 has 3 production lines, and here's what's happening in each production line. AI agents, what you're going to say is, the goal is for you to monitor our plant, and I want to be within these specifications, and the agent is going to have an API called MCP, where it's going to see an anomaly, and then it's going to use the Model Context Protocol API to go get the historical data it needs to do advanced reasoning and make changes that you will approve. That's the fundamental difference. All right, with that, I've gone through digital transformation, I've gone through unified namespace, and I added something I wasn't going to do, which was the agent, to give you guys some context on how large language models can be used with the unified namespace, and I'll answer 2 questions.
Real quick, we're not done yet. You can clap after. Load your questions into the app. They get upvoted to be moved to the top, and if we don't get through them all, we will send them to him and he can answer them. So we got a couple minutes. I'm going to go through these quickly to have you answer them. Okay. First, you said only 10% of manufacturers have a digital MES, but MES is more prevalent than that. What do you mean by digital versus others?
So the core 4 of MES is scheduling, work order management, OEE tracking, and downtime tracking. Basically, if you buy MES, if you have a digital MES, you're going to have those 4 no matter what. And then MES is another 100 possible features. This is why critical manufacturing has 40 modules. MES is not like SCADA, where SCADA is always supervisory control and data acquisition with alarm management and event tracking and process control. SCADA is 100% of the time those things. MES, 100% of the time is the core 4 plus, 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 plus. When I say digital, what I say is that the plus, 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 and the OEE, they're calculating on Excel, on paper. There's not a single pane of glass through, like your smartphone, that you enter through to control your manufacturing operation and then monitor it, okay, in terms of the manufacturing execution. That's what I mean by that.
Okay. What does the cycle time apply to in your examples?
Cycle time is an MES function.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob. How is unified namespace different than a well-organized data lake?
A data lake is deterministic, and there's no such thing as a well-organized data lake because by default, a data lake is unorganized. But what you can say is a well-organized data warehouse. A well-organized data warehouse is deterministic. That is, you have to tell it how it's structured. A unified namespace, I can publish ethereal events to a UNS because I use edge-driven report by exception lightweight technology like MQTT to do it. For example, right now there are 400 people in the room. All of you are a node. And imagine I'm the broker that represents our unified namespace, or horizontally scaled, there's maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 of us, and vertically scaled, 10 stacks of us, okay? But all of us have the same data and information. You could publish to me, and it populates to everything. Some of you are permanent. Some of you are ethereal. Someone might walk in the door and publish information to me while they're in the room, but then walk out and never come back ever again. That's called ethereal data and information, okay? Unified Namespace supports ethereal, but data warehousing and data lakes do not.
And last question, who are the main people responsible for the crisis in Europe in digital transformation?
It's not, it's honestly, it's two fundamental issues. It's a really good question. Number one, European engineers' strengths are a weakness between industrial revolutions. This is really important, so please don't kick me off the stage. This part we need to, I want to go back to this here. So this right here is the technology S-curve, and that black line is the technology S-curve. Time left to right on the x-axis, ROI is on the y-axis. You'll notice in the very beginning of an industrial revolution, we see very little return on investment, okay? And the reason why is because that's when we're firing the MBAs and we're hiring the technologists to take over to innovate. And then the organization starts to adopt and get smarter and smarter, and then we start seeing a 45-degree angle on ROI. And then we get to the very top, and then it flattens off. We start seeing diminishing ROI as we become fully transformed in that technological breakthrough. This bottom S right here was PLC, this is automation. The top one is the automation of business decisions with TCP/IP. The next S curve above that is artificial intelligence, starting with GPT. Guess who you hire at the top of this S curve? Who runs your company at the top of the S curve? An MBA. Somebody who specializes in market segments. Somebody who specializes in continuous improvement. But guess who runs the company at the bottom of the S curve? A technologist. There's a reason that Volkswagen North America is the only legacy company in the top 10 in digital maturity in the world. And you should go look who runs Volkswagen North America. It's the only one, the only CEO who is an engineering technologist. That's the reason. The reason is that the vast majority of companies in Europe are run by MBAs. Innovation, startup innovation is very, very difficult in the European Union, so it's really, really hard for you to have an emerging player come in to disrupt the market because the government plays such a huge role. I'm not going to make an indictment on that. It's just a reality. Government plays a huge role in the management of industry in the European Union. That's the challenge. There are upsides and downsides to the way it's done in the European Union, but that's the reason. So if you want to solve it in the European Union, the first thing you guys have to do is admit you are way behind. Most of you, I am sure, did not know that before we came in here, and half of you are going to walk away unconvinced. That's the hubris thing I was talking about. But the second piece is you then have to support policies that incentivize innovation in the market. Okay? For every critical manufacturing success story, there's 100 failures in the European Union. But for every Tesla, there's 10 failures in the United States. Okay, that's the difference. And
all right, and we're at time. So let's give Walker a round of applause. Thank you.
Good?
Good job.
Yeah. All right, thanks.